Okay, so this morning we are talking about who are we. And if you have your journal, we're on the second week. Okay, so this week, who are we? So what I said last week is I was going to be telling you about Gandhi. So each week we're going to have some Gandhi stories. And so today is no different. But before we begin, Ralph Waldo Trine wrote the classic In Tune with the Infinite. He wrote it and it was copyrighted and published in 1908. However, my edition is not an original. It's from 1970 when I started studying the science of mind. And there's a quote that he says on page 29, and it says, "All life is one. We are bound together in the one common and universal life, and we should take into consideration the fact that we have it entirely in our own hands to determine the order of thought we entertain and consequently the order of influences we attract. We are not mere willowy creatures of circumstance unless we choose to be." And that's what the reading was about this morning. We belong to all life. All life is bound together. And Ralph Waldo Trine was one of the early metaphysicians, and they were very clear about the fact that we were all one with one another. All life is one, and we're not creatures of circumstances. We are not victims in this world. But however, we come from a human view, don't we? Ernest Holmes called that view the multiplicity, because we have a multiplicity of people, of things, of flowers, of nature, of animals, of insects. All of this he's calling this a multiplicity. So from the unity comes the multiplicity. Science calls it duality. And we ordinary people, we just simply call it differences, that we are different one from the other. Okay. So if you hear the dog barking, it's because somebody walked by. Okay. So anyway, Teilhard de Chardin, he said, we are spiritual beings and that we are having a human experience. Notice that. He didn't say we were human beings having a spiritual experience, which many of us have. That has changed in the years that we've had it. We've been hearing it. We are actually spiritual beings. So stop and think about that. You are spirit, and that spirit takes form as you, just like spirit takes form as roses or peonies or pine trees or dogs or your cat or any other living form. The spirit has taken form as that. And spirit has taken form as you. That's what Desjardins is teaching. And you stop and think about, that's really radical, because we think of ourselves as being human beings, don't we? We think that we are basically bound to this life and that we are subject to whatever is going on in our lives. And so we are trying to now change our focus in the science of mind from thinking of ourselves as human beings to thinking of ourselves as spiritual beings. And therefore, if we will do that, then we will change our expectation of what we experience in our life. Lynn Twist in The Soul of Money wrote, "We live with scarcity as an underlying assumption. Our expectations, our behavior, and their consequences become a self-fulfilling prophecy of inadequacy, lack, and dissatisfaction. Why? Because we are seeing ourselves as human beings." It starts with me knowing I am a spiritual being. And if I am a spiritual being and I look around and other people are like me, then guess what? They too are spiritual beings. We are all spirit. We are all showing up in form. However, like Lynn says, we've all come to think that we are human beings, and therefore we are subject to the beliefs and the assumptions that human beings make. And one of those is that there's not enough. There's not enough for all of us to go around. Okay, so let's talk about Gandhi, because Gandhi's life is a good illustration of what it is we're trying to do. He was born October 2nd in 1869. He was born in an Indian village, and he says he was very, very shy growing up. He went to school, but he was just a mediocre student. And as was the practice in those days, he was married at 13. Can you imagine being married at 13? Okay, I can't. But anyway, he was married at 13. And when he graduated high school at 18, then he went to college. He thought he would like to be a doctor. And so at college, he studied, but he failed all of his courses, realizing that this just obviously wasn't for him. But his uncle came to his rescue and suggested that he go to England and become a barrister, which is an attorney. So he went to, the family pooled their money and sent him to England for 3 years to study law. And he did, but while he was there, because he was so shy, he had not gotten out of that. And he felt very uncomfortable in the English setting. As you can probably imagine, he's totally out of his culture and comfort zone. And so consequently, he started doing a lot of things and that just, I guess, were kind of out of order with what should be happening in his life. So one of his Indian friends took him aside and he said to him, you are not here to study law. You are here to learn the English way of life. And so because he was there to learn the English way of life, he decided he was going to be a gentleman. So what do gentlemen have? Expensive clothes, okay? They have French tutors. And so he got a French tutor and he got expensive clothes. And then he got, he even bought a violin. And after about 3 months of trying to be an English gentleman, he realized that this really wasn't for him either. And so his biographer says, Gandhi awoke abruptly from these dreams of grandeur. How could changing the way he dressed make him anything more than what he already was? To change his life, he had to change his way of thinking, deeper than any differences in custom or culture. Better to be truthful to oneself than to try to act like someone else. And Gandhi put it this way: if my character made a gentleman of me, so much the better. Otherwise, I forget the ambition. So what he's saying is that being a gentleman doesn't change my shyness. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change me fundamentally. I'm not fitting in any better being this gentleman than I did when I wasn't a gentleman. And so he realized he, number one, had to do what? Change his thinking, change his life. Have you heard that before? Probably so, okay? All right, so he finished law school and he went back to India. And there he went to practice law, and guess what? He didn't do any better there either. Why? Because they had taught him English law and he needed Indian law. And his cohorts at the law firm he was working at laughed at him all the time because why? He didn't know what he was doing, okay? So once again, his brother comes to his aid this time, and he tells him about a Muslim friend who has a legal case in South Africa that needs a clerk to attend to it. A clerk. Now, he's a barrister, but they need a clerk. So he decides, yes, okay, I'll go to South Africa. It means he's going to be separated from his wife, who has just given birth to their second son. But, it's like, well, I need to go there. So he goes to South Africa, where he finds that he doesn't fit in there either, okay, as you might well expect. All right, but in South Africa, he has this case that he's been given, he finds out is between family members. And to have one side win or the other side win means that they're going to split the family. And so Gandhi starts to study the case and realizes it's far more ambitious and more complicated than the people who sent him there realized. So he has to study bookkeeping and he has to learn a lot of stuff, but he does all of that so that he can, argue this case appropriately. And in the process of it, he learns more than anybody knows of this case on any side, on either side of the case. And so he decides, you know what, I need to do what is best for both sides of this family. In other words, there needs to be a win-win for everybody here. And so he was able to satisfactorily get that case resolved. And he says, the true practice, this is what he learned, the true practice of law I had learned to find out the better side of human nature and to enter men's hearts. I realized that the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties riven asunder. Now, can you just think about that? That's not how our legal system works. Our legal system works with, you have these two adversaries and they try to, one outdo the other. One side wins, one side loses because they're adversaries. But Gandhi sees that both sides have something to win and something to lose. He sees that he needs to look into men's hearts and to their human nature. Okay, so what is he doing? He actually, when you're looking into someone's heart, what are you doing? You're looking into the spirit of them. You're looking into their wholeness. You're looking into the truth of who they are, aren't you? Right? Shake your head, yes. Okay. You're not just looking at their human self. You're not just looking at what their conditions are. Because remember, we are not bound by our circumstances because we are what? Spiritual beings. All right. And as spiritual beings, the connection to the spirit is in the heart. Okay. And so his biographer says, Gandhi, without realizing it, had found the secret of success. He began to look on every difficulty as an opportunity for what? Service. A challenge which could draw him out of himself greater and greater resources of intelligence and imagination. So what happened with this situation is Gandhi began to see things differently. Now, first, remember, he's learned some really crucial lessons. One, he's learned that it's his thinking that he needs to change, okay? Not his outer world, okay? He's not changing the outer circumstances. He's changing what? The inner circumstances. And this is what we were talking about last week, okay? We were talking about challenging those inner circumstances within ourselves, how we think, how we feel, because that is what makes a difference in our world. So Gandhi has found out, change your thinking, change your life, okay? And then he found that it didn't make a difference with your environment, right? Because he changed environment. He went from England to home, now to South Africa. His environment, until this last time when he was doing this case, he had failed. He had failed going to England. He had failed his doctor classes. He had failed he had failed at Indian law. He had failed at all of this stuff. And so now he's finding success. And he doesn't just find success, he finds great success. He is a very successful lawyer in South Africa, and white people as well as Indian people revere him, and they ask him to go, they bring him their cases, and he's making a lot of money, and he's becoming very wealthy. He's becoming very wealthy, and he's able to bring his family to South Africa to live. I'm going to leave the story there because there's more, but we will deal with that next week, okay? But for right now, I want us to realize that the secret, that the third thing he learned was the secret of success was what? Service. So 3 things that we learned from this week's lesson. Number 1, change your thinking, change your life. Number 2, it's not your environment that makes a difference. It's who you are that makes a difference. And the third, the secret of success is service. Think about that. Just give it some thought. The secret of success is service. And what is service? It's giving. But we have a human belief in scarcity, like Lynn Twist was saying. And because we have a belief in scarcity, it's assumed that there is not enough. we wake up in the morning going, oh, I'm so tired. I didn't get enough sleep. Okay. Or we're hungry at some point. We go like, I didn't get enough to eat. Okay. Or I didn't learn enough at school. How many times are we always saying to ourselves, there wasn't enough? Okay. We start out in the morning with not enough. And how many times have we said there's not enough hours in the day? Who has not said that? Okay. All right. Do you see that underlying assumption that in every place in our life is going like, I don't have enough. We go to the grocery store and we look at our wallet and we go, or wherever we're shopping, and we go like, I don't have enough cash, so I'm going to use my card. Hello? Do you see? You're still using it. Even if you have enough on your card, you're still saying, I don't have enough cash. You see? So underlying everything is this belief that there is not enough. There's this belief in scarcity. And Lynn Twist says that, she said that this belief scares us to several toxic beliefs. The first one is there's not enough. So she says, there's not enough generates a fear that drives us to make sure that we're not the person, or our loved ones are not the people who get crushed, marginalized, or left out. Once we define our world as deficient, the total of our life energy, everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do, particularly with money, becomes an expression of an effort to overcome the sense of lack and the fear of losing to others or being left out. Just apply that to your own life. Just think about it. We learn on the playground from the time we were little, right? Taking sides, right? We've learned that, from the time we were little, that there wasn't enough paper to go around, or enough pencils to go around, or we didn't have enough of the teacher's time, or our parents' attention. Which we start from very little children learning this whole belief that humankind has created that there wasn't enough. But stop and think. If you are a spiritual being, you're making a fundamental change to who you think you are. If you are a spiritual being, then who is your father? Who is your parent? Who is your source? Who is your creative origin, original place of being? It's not your job. It's not your inheritance. It's not anybody you get money from in the world. Those are all circumstances. The only place it could possibly be is spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. The fact of the matter is, if you are spirit, then you are what? The descendant of spirit. You are spirit coming into form, just like the roses. Stop and think about that. Spirit has all that you could possibly need. And that's why Jesus said something along the lines of, He cares for the lilies of the field. Why would He not care for you? Think about that. I mean, that takes on a whole new, I don't know what the word is. I'm at a loss right now. But it just totally changes how you think. And that's what Gandhi's saying. You have to change how you think. You have to stop thinking of yourself as this is limited to this body. You are not limited, because this body is not who you are. Who are you? Who am I? The question today is, who are we? We are spirit. We are life expressing itself in, through, and as all that is. We are unlimited, except where we create the limitations in our own life. And as long as we're living in the fear that there is not enough, we will be experiencing, just like Ernest Holmes said in the reading, we will be experiencing not enough. So stop and think about that for a minute. Just in your own life right now, just think where you're thinking, I don't have enough of this. You know, I have to go to the store today because I don't have enough milk. Okay? Why can't we say, I'm going to go to the store to get more milk, as opposed, I'm going to go to the store because I don't have enough milk? Do you see the difference? It's just, it seems like a minor difference, but it's really a fundamental way that we think. We have to stop thinking in terms of limitation and scarcity and not enough, and we have to learn to catch ourselves. And so that's your challenge this week, to catch yourselves thinking fearful scarcity thoughts. Those toxic ideas that there is not enough. And people are going to come to you today and this week, and they're going to say something along those lines. You're going to hear it somewhere. I promise you, you're going to hear it. Okay? And when you do, you have to listen to what they're saying, but you have to translate it in your own mind as though you were speaking another language. As though you were speaking, and you really are. You really are speaking another language. Now here's a test for you. We've been, Connie was talking about our prosperity class, and it's almost over. We only have a couple more weeks left. And I'm so sad about that. I'm sure everybody else is too, but that's the way it is. We had this 10-week class, so we're just about done. And here's your challenge, because they were all asked to tithe. And people get all upset when you ask church people to tithe, you know, because there's a really bad connotation. Some people have used tithing in such a way that it's forced, and you can't tithe in a forced way, okay? But here, listen to this. Try this. Think right now of how much, if you were going to give money to church today, whether you were planning to give today or not, doesn't matter. What would you give today to the church if you could? Would it be $1? Would it be $10? $100? $1,000? It's not about how generous, it's just what you believe and think right now that this is how much I would like to give to the church today. Think of that. Everybody got a number? When you got a number, raise your hand. Okay, come on. When you got a number, raise your hand. I'm waiting for everybody that I see, that is. I need one more. Come on, one more hand. Floyd, wake up. I think Floyd fell asleep. Okay, so here's the thing. All right, so since you have a number, okay, I want you to multiply it by 10. Because see, the number that you wrote is the one you're comfortable with. Now multiply it by 10. How does that feel? You're going to give that to the church. So if you put $1, you're going to give 10. If you put $100, you're going to give 1,000. If you put $10, then you're going to give $100. How does it feel to give the times 10? That's your tithe. That's your level of fear of insufficiency. Because you see, it doesn't matter where you give it. It's not about where you give it. It's about the fear you feel. And that's why we tithe. Because tithing challenges our fear of scarcity. Do you get this? In order to tithe and release that fear, we have to know ourselves as having spirit as our source. We are learning to trust the universe. That's the simplest way to do it. And the level of fear that you're having, just feel it right now. That's the level of fear that you have about trusting the universe. Because we've been building up to this, people. Okay, this whole time we've been talking. You are spirit, you are spirit, you are spirit. From the very beginning, you are spirit in form. You are taking form. You are spirit taking form. And yet at the same time, we are more what? Aligned with the human part of ourselves that says, I need a job. I need this money. I need this. I need that. What is all of that? It's all lack. It's all lack. It's all lack. It's all I don't have. It's all scarcity. It's all not enough. We have to learn to change our language. We have to stop thinking of ourselves as human beings. We have to start thinking of ourselves as spiritual beings. And because we are spirit, all of our desires, our needs, everything is always already met, because that's the promise that you got from spirit when you came into form. And for those of you who went to other churches and you were taught that Jesus was poverty stricken and took a vow of poverty, he did not. Okay, he did not. He had plenty all the time. And when he was on the cross dying, the Romans were fighting over his robe. You know why? Because it was a sign of his wealth. It was a sign of his wealth. And Gandhi, people were falling all over themselves, giving Gandhi money. And you know what Gandhi did with it? Gave it away, because he was about service. He knew that his source was spirit. And we have to learn that too. So this week, I want you to start noticing all the places where you're saying to yourself, I don't have enough. Start noticing the scarcity. When you wake up in the morning, instead of saying, oh God, I didn't get enough sleep. Excuse me, I got all the sleep I was supposed to, thank you, God. And tomorrow, I just may get more sleep. But today, I had all the sleep that my body and I needed at the moment. Which is the truth, actually. Do you see? But as we get older, what do? We buy into all that scarcity stuff. Okay? We have to change our language. We have to not be buying into what other people say to us. We have to take a leap of faith. And so if you have not been reading the declaration, the statements I've been writing every day, you might want to go back and read the ones for this week. Because, I wasn't trying, but it turns out, looking back, they had a lot of these ideas in there. Okay, things to think about during the week. So just start on Monday and go to Tuesday and Wednesday. You all have them. I challenge you to look for the scarcity in your life this week and declare it's not true. When you see it, you look at it and say, this is not the truth. The truth of me is I am a spiritual being and God has supplied my good. Just because I'm not seeing it right now doesn't mean it's not there. I am changing my thinking, I'm changing my life, and I will see it because it is already there. It is already there. God has supplied every good thing in this world. And we just have to take advantage of it. So let's take these thoughts and ideas and turn within. In this very moment, I am knowing that there is only one life, one life. It is not many, it is only one. And from that one life, all things, all manifestation, all the worlds are made. All that we see, all that we feel, all that we experience originates in that one life. And that one life is intelligence. That one life is creativity. That one life is abundance. That one life is joy. It is peace. It is wisdom. It is all the origins of anything and everything that we can possibly want in our world. All of our creativity comes from that one life. All of our intelligence comes from that one life. All of the abundance that we experience comes from that one life. And as we open our hearts and minds and allow ourselves to be fully and completely available to it, it flows in us and through us and as us, just like water in the river flows unabated. But when we put rocks in the way, the Spirit has to walk around it, doesn't it? It has to flow around, just like the river. It keeps trying over and over and over to be expressed in our life, because every morning we wake up breathing. Every minute we breathe and every breath we breathe is Spirit trying to let us know, remind us that who we are is pure Spirit, that we have taken form so that we may enjoy life in a new way. We are the visible expressions of the unseen life of God. And so this moment, as we accept this word, as we know this truth, as we start looking for those places in our lives that we are not allowing this truth to become real in our lives, we are identifying them, becoming aware of them, noticing them, and getting rid of them, so that we may live fully and completely the life of God in us, through us, and as us. We are now speaking a new language, the language of Spirit, the language of truth, the language that lets us see and feel and experience our very deep awareness of who we are, that we have buried. We have buried under the human beliefs of scarcity and not enoughness. This is not the truth of who we are. And we release it now. Right now, we release it. We let it go. And we know that the truth of who we are is bursting through, because it's like the dam has broken and we are awakened to a new day, a new life, a new experience, and all of the goodness that we could possibly imagine and experience in our own lives. And because we know that it's about giving, and we are of service everywhere we absolutely can be, in the smallest ways and in the largest ways. We are in joy and we are in love, because this is who we are. And so I release this word now, as I know that we are individually and collectively working out ways so that it can express in our own lives perfectly. I release, I let go, as I give absolute deep thanks and gratitude for knowing this truth, for being able to express this truth, being able to receive this truth, and being able for each one of us to know it in the very core of who we are. And so it truly is. Ashe and Amen.